this video, sorry, I just woke up and had my bagel, but no morning coffee. This video is to help veterans out there going through CMP, compensation pension exams, especially if perhaps you're being targeted or you have a VA that's not really that great. They're kind of almost anti-veteran, or you have made some, maybe not enemies, but people that really don't like dealing with your case at your local compensation and pensions office. Regardless of what they tell you when you go in there, they do know your case. They can look it up rather quickly, and they have access to everything. And remember, you have to do a FOIA request to get things that are related to you. Even things you said during an exam, things that were found on your body. You have to do a FOIA request to get it. All they have to do is type your name into a computer, and it comes up. And they do help with scheduling, so they are involved in the mix. Regardless what they say, they are. And what I've found, and this may help, you veterans out there who are dealing with compensation and pension, but that sometimes some of these contractors that are hired, they don't want to tell you what kind of exam. And I've encountered that with Veterans Evaluation Services out of Texas. I don't like them. They are not veteran friendly. They will schedule you for appointments you can't possibly attend. And now I'm working with Optum, but I've found lately with Optum that, even the first appointment was rather rocky. But I think the reason for some of the denials was the first appointment. That may be, my fault for the dates. I just threw stuff out there, and I tried to prepare for this one, but our friendly hackers, apparently somebody at Optum knows them, because they refuse to tell me what kind of exams I have now. They refuse to say anything. They say, oh, for your privacy, we can't tell you that. It's stupid. It's, you're supposed to, according to VBA policy, go there with relevant medical documents because the examiner may or may not have them. Once again, somebody may be trying to screw over your claim. And it's not, they're not screwing it down for the right thing, for the evidence and for your benefit, because obviously if you're applying and you've went that far, you're not faking it. To get to this point, you can't be faking it. You would have been found out a long time ago. But they're trying to screw it in or nail it into the wall so you lose. So if you go there unprepared with the right documents, the right mindset, and to know what's going on, especially an overworked claims examiner, or not claims examiner, an overworked medical examiner, or one that's malicious, or one that just doesn't care, they just want that couple $100 for 45 minutes, they may end up hurting you. Now, as I said before, I don't know which one of my exams hurt me. One of them I never even met. I never even went there. It was some nurse grabbed out of Georgia, and she looked at records which, unfortunately, the VA doesn't have all of them, especially if they're from the local Saginaw VA, because a lot of stuff ends up in Vista Imaging. And also, without the veteran present, you'll find that, sometimes clinics it all depends on who the attending is, or the nurse practitioner, or the PA. it depends on them, with regards to how in detail your records are. Some people, I've went to urgent cares before, or even ERs, with a doc with a bad attitude, and there's almost nothing there. I went to one after the assault when we lived in a place owned by Midwest Capital Management LLC. After I was assaulted there by somebody from a racial extremist group, and the doctor actually put, and the reason for visit, claims to be assaulted. Like somebody would make that stuff up. This guy was a jerk anyway. Somebody that's from that religious extremist group, a racist group, actually followed me to the ER, and actually when I was talking with my daughter's mother, this person actually yelled and said, "I don't think this is the place for you to be chatting somebody." Nobody said anything. This guy followed us to the hospital and followed us home. He followed us out to the parking lot. And he's the lover of the person who assaulted me. And then they have a teenage girl. It's disgusting. But anyway, big time troublemaker. Very just, I don't know, people that make your skin crawl in all kinds of ways. But the doctor didn't say anything. Yeah, really horrible doctor. And I think that's the doctor that was the attending doctor way, way back when, in 2014, when I was sick and I was coughing so bad that sometimes I'd like black out for a second. It was really bad coughing. And he argued with me because I fell off a gurney. He argued with me that it happened. Well, you're here now. You're on the gurney now. Yeah, because I woke up and got back up there. Well, you're going to be fine. I'm just going to discharge you now with some medicine for bronchitis and for sinusitis. And I'm like, I want a CAT scan. No, I fell off a gurney on my head, on my back. I want a CAT scan or at least an x-ray, especially to check my implant. Anyway, yeah, this guy's a real class act. But anyway, so he hardly put anything in my records. And just like with Saginaw Urgent Care, I mean, up until the new doctor they have there, everything was negative against the patient. More narrative against the patient, patient shaming than actual diagnostics or discussion of medical histories. But so this, those kind of things will not help your claim, and poorly detailed stuff may or may not help you, but it may require ultimately, somebody else's statement to support this or to support that, which is definitely part of the process. That's good. Sometimes with the disabilities, they're a little more strict about that stuff. Oh, we want a notarized affidavit as to such. But the VA will, take statements a lot more easily than Social Security Administration will. Not that they don't, but they're just stricter and require more if you don't have, scientific evidence or a ER visit or something, or a doctor's visit, discharge notes. They're a lot more strict with statements. But the VA takes them a lot more easily. Eyewitness testimony has a lot more weight with the VA. So you may be required to get that stuff because your ER visit or urgent care visit or even doctor's visit was poorly detailed. And when you ask doctor's office to update and make things more detailed, generally they're not. It's not a positive response, because they have to go back and do the same work, which they don't get paid for. So that being said, just be careful over the um, the contractors that you choose and how they handle your claim exams. Notating them, and if they refuse to tell you, what kind of exam it is, then obviously you're being set up because you're supposed to be properly prepared, and then it would require a call to Veterans Benefits Administration and tell them what the contractor is doing, and they may terminate the contract. As I said before, I'm now with Optum, but I've had veterans evaluation services in the past. I love Texans, I love Texas. The couple of times I've been there, but this company is not patient centered. Like I said, they don't give me input. They didn't give me input regarding location and time of exam, or even the gender of the examiner. They didn't give me any input for the distance. Um, yeah, it was pretty bad. And they refused to tell me what kind of exam it was. And now Optum, I'm finding there. I was told the other day by some guy, oh, this is the guy that talked and talked and talked, and he would talk over me, and he refused to, go away from his script. I think schizoidal personality, probably. And come to find out that I'm positive it was him at a Walmart in Saginaw. He showed up hanging around my daughter and I, that I heard him talk, and I said, you need to stay away from us. Means he probably works at one of the Morley offshoots. If he's handling a call center for, he claimed to be call center for Optima, but I know he's not. But yeah, kind of abusive and really gaslighting of the client, and doesn't let you talk, and justifies everything that he says. Is a very controlling person. He tried the same thing at Walmart. He said, we're going to go outside and talk. I said, no, we're not. Get away from me. I said, we're going to go outside and talk. I said again, get away from me and my child. Anyway, but yeah, so we'll see about Optum. I don't like the direction we're going. I'm not going to be properly prepared for my exams. And, the Detroit office of CMP actually called me and set things up. But we have a conflict about the kind of DBQ that's being done from what Detroit office told me that they were going to do, and then what this company says they're going to do. So, like I said, I honestly believe I'm being screwed over, and I was surprised about the Detroit VBA office would CMP office would assign one DBQ, and then the contractor would change it. That's illegal. They can't change it. It's illegal. Whatever DBQ that the CMP office says that they have to do, or the Veterans Benefit Administration office says is supposed to be done, that's what's supposed to be done. To not do it, again, that's illegal, and they're not going to get paid. Yeah. I don't know what to advise people to do if they're being, set up to get messed over like me. Just a continued pattern, I just really can't help but just really, think that it's just the amount of damage to my family, and the amount of people that are being organized against us, especially people who've been in the army or have family who've been in the army. Um, it says to me that it's an army veteran, and as many of these people are black, it says to me that he or she is probably black, and that says to me, because I've known very few army vets in my life, maybe a handful that I've known, fairly well, and most of them I used to work with at Triple Canopy, and yeah, I don't know what the problem is with my coworkers. I've seen some of them in Saginaw. One of them, yes, he is black. It's the guy that took my job and then became a lieutenant. I've seen him once when we lived at a place owned by Midwest Capital Management LLC. My security camera caught him. So somebody hacked the folders and the temp files for the security camera to try to alter the picture, but they don't know that I had a duplicate of it. I downloaded the folder and made a copy when I saw that. But yeah, I used to work with him. These are also the people that are members of a racist group, and they assaulted me. So it's interesting. But anyway, also the length of the reach of this company and of one of the founders just within the state of Michigan. He's a billionaire. Incredible reach. This makes you wonder. I'm not a big conspiracy person. I believe people are people, and some people join a movement or a group or a religion because they feel drawn to it, and that backroom, whispers in a closed room. It doesn't happen as often as people think, but it just makes you wonder. So many different agencies do stuff to harm my family. So many. This really makes me wonder. But vets, if you're out there and this kind of stuff is happening to you, I don't know how to. The only thing I would say is, call VBA and tell them that contractors refuse to tell you the exam. And if VBA says, oh, you can't know, then you'll know what's going on. Somebody's trying to set you up. Because if you're not properly prepared for the exam and know what they're going to be looking at, and so you know the correct narrative, they're going to push you to be quick. And this is as a psychologist with a background in forensic interviewing, and forensic psychology. The more that people are rushed, the more it's going to make their impression and their attitude negative, and they're going to feel hurried. They're going to feel even a kind of bullying and a kind of distress, based on that entire situation, which is going to make their statistically, it's going to make their recall much, much less. They have found that witnesses and victims that are in similar situations, they have, it's after the fact, when they're interviewed in a negative manner, and their experience is negative of the entire process, from being a victim or witnessing somebody being a victim all the way to point of interviewing. Their recall is greatly diminished, greatly, and the diminishing of the detail and the statistical accuracy of the events they've seen, it starts to decline after the third minute. So that was just a study that I read, and And also, if somebody is a victim, or whether they're a victim or a eyewitness, is irregardless. But if the event is largely traumatic and negative, the more they're negative, the less that they're going to recall, and the more that's going to be lost, in fog. Um, but now somebody that's more stoic and even removed or disassociated from the event. I don't mean disassociated by identity disorder. I mean the more person is aloof and disassociated from it, and they approach it uh, like they feel like they're outside of the event, even though they are part of it. The recall is better. So anyway, so that's just being said. When you're put in that kind of situation, more than likely that exam is going to hurt you. And if the Veterans Benefit Administration is telling you, oh, the contractor can do that, then they're setting you up too. Because if you don't have the right documents, you are definitely going to be hurt by the exam. And if you're unprepared for what is coming in the exam, so you can tell, historically the truth, and how you can tell pain-wise or ability-wise the truth. If it's none of the above, the exam's going to hurt you. So I hope that I helped, some veterans out there. Maybe even people going for civilian, disability. Um, once you get to the point of the exam, if you're lying for any of the above, for vets or for civilian, if you get to the point of the actual medical exam and you've faked that far, you're going to get found out. And, may even get through a medical exam. Maybe. I doubt it, but maybe. But, this is the point that you're going to get found out. And, but most people, they'll get found out by their doctor. As they're building the case, doctor will say something. I mean, it's your right to, to countermand it, to argue against it, and find a doctor that says, I don't see why this doctor said this, but I have found the opposite. But, it would go to say that whose family doctor would, build a case against them. But then again, most family doctors are not going to lie either. If it's, sure that this person is exaggerating or there's nothing there, the family doctor's not going to get involved because they can lose their license. Because if it goes to trial or goes to board for a veteran, they're going to have to give testimony. And again, it will affect their licensing if there's any fraud in the testimony. But again, sometimes people are just malicious or they don't care. So, that being said, we have a right to a second opinion. And if our doctor, knows our medical care very well, and, they're prepared to go on the journey with us and give statements, for the VA or for disability, and we're not allowed to take them there, we're not allowed to share what they've found, definitely you're being set up to fail. And the more and more that they deny you and they have evidence to deny you, it's going to make you have to fight an uphill battle to get disability. And again, this is weaponization of a veteran's compensation and pension process, and a weaponization of the VA.